fix it. I promise I will fix it.
All right, well, let's dissect the latest on the campaign trail with Amanda Renteria, who is the national political director of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, and Maura Gillespie, founder of Blue Stock Strategies and former press advisor to Republican Speaker of the House, John Boehner. So thank you so much for your time, both of you. Now, Maura, I want to start with you because I want to address the fact that Donald Trump is in Virginia. He's been to California, New Mexico, New York. What's the strategy between hitting some of these presumably blue states?
The Donald Trump campaign seems largely to be focusing on male voters, largely white men, Latino men who are dissatisfied with government currently and don't want government overreach. So he's really driving his message to that voting bloc, essentially, and trying to get them to come out to vote. He's trying to get them some who don't typically vote in elections, making sure that they are motivated enough to vote. And what we see here largely is a tactic of using fear and speaking down to women. And we're unfortunately seeing that time and time again from the former president, which doesn't really bode well for us as a nation if that's how we're speaking about women in terms of if you disagree with them, they're stupid. So I don't think that's a strong message. And I think it's actually turning off a voter base that he has largely ignored, which is women. But here, what he's doing is trying to appeal to young white men, Latino voters in Nevada, and that's where he's focusing on.
Amanda, both candidates will be in North Carolina. Biden did make gains there in 2020, partly because of black voter turnout. But do you think that the Harris campaign still see that state as a competitive one?
They do, because they've largely been able to see the coalition building ever since Kamala Harris got into the race. The numbers, particularly in black communities, have really come to the surface. In addition, just the young college-educated crew there is fired up. I'm not exactly sure if you talk to the Democratic Party in North Carolina, you will hear they have never been more fired up than before. The other thing here is you have a very difficult Republican candidate there. And he has said some things that are truly offensive. That has actually fired up the Democratic base in North Carolina as well. So there's a lot of different things going on that make the energy there a little different this year than in the past elections.
Maura, lawmakers in North Carolina approved a ban on abortions after 12 weeks of pregnancy. How much could that hurt Donald Trump in that state with younger women, even though North Carolina people are assuming is very much in Donald Trump's sights?
You would think that, but I think, lots of things have shifted. And what we've seen in North Carolina is that they're a state that does typically, split ticket vote. So they're not just one, down the ballot, go all Republican or all Democrat. You see that, and largely you see that after a series where someone went too far to the right or too far to the left. The current governor was elected because of this bathroom bill that was put in place previously by the North Carolina State House, and it went too far. And so then you have Cooper as the governor as Democrat, and to your guest's previous point about the very troubling candidate for governor that the Republicans have up there, he's a real problem. And you're going to find that some Republicans are too embarrassed to go vote just straight ticket down for Republicans because of his name being at the top of their ticket for the governor. And so it's an important point to make is, these extreme views that don't really match what the national audience of Americans think when it comes to abortion and when it comes to women's health. When that doesn't match up, voters in North Carolina and otherwise will vote with that in mind.
But the Trump campaign, as well as J.D. Vance, the message they're really pushing out on the campaign trail is that they are simply leaving it down to the states. They want to give voters more power to make those choices in their own states. Maura, do you not think that will wash with voters in North Carolina?
It's a valid point to make, is bringing it back to the states. But when you have a law of the land that has been in place for such a long time, as Roe was, you find voters that feel, with the rhetoric that's coming out from members on the far right, members in the J.D. Vance Trump campaign with the Project 2025 looming overhead, there are just concerns from women across the country that are worried about what it means for their rights. And when you hear stories coming out of Texas and women dying, trying to get aid, trying to get medical care for themselves as a living person. So when you say you're pro-life and then you all of a sudden don't want to help a person who is dying, it really does send this really, really bad message, archaic message to women that our health and our well-being isn't as important. And so I don't know that it's going to bring moderate voters onto their side if they are campaigning in that fashion. Again, I do believe that there was validity in the idea about bringing things to the states. We, as Republicans, as conservatives, we don't want big government overreach. But then to say that in the same breath, big government, nothing says big government to me like telling me what I can do with my medical freedom.
Well, Amanda, Donald Trump has said that Project 2025 isn't part of his policy plan. He has been talking a lot about the economy, though, and according to the latest polls, New York Times had another one this week, he's more trusted when it comes to the economy. So what do you think the Harris campaign can do to chip away at that?
So I think one of their key lines that they often say is, sure, he's going to work on the economy for himself. And so I think that's the important message, which is whose side is each candidate on? And on the question in all of these polls, when you say who is on your side, Kamala Harris continues to do well. So not only does she need to talk about her economic policies, but she needs to talk about them in juxtaposition that her policies are for everyone at home, for all Americans, while his are really for himself and his richest friends. And I think it's easy to see all the different examples of not only who's on the stage, but when you think about his past presidency and the things that he says he's going to do forward, it really is focused on a very small group of his buddies. And I think that message resonates well, but she does need to continue to talk about the things that are really at people's kitchen table, like bringing down grocery prices, bringing down housing for all people. And I think that's a real winning message on the table right now.
But Amanda, how much do you think the jobs report this week is going to hurt her message so close to the election?
I think at this point, it's the system is baked. Where you're going to vote, it's about getting your voters out right now. And that's why you're seeing all the excitement and interest. On the undecideds, it might push them a little bit, but I just don't think so. I mean, when you see these candidates out there, they are on air. They're everywhere you can possibly be. Their messages are out there. Generally, a jobs report at the very last minute, I just don't think it's going to have the same resonance. Now, if it's hugely big or small, then sure, maybe it'll move some undecideds here or there. But frankly, right now, what you see is what are they doing on the ground to get their voters out? And for Kamala Harris, it's putting people on the ground, making sure our organizers are there. And for Trump, he uses rhetoric and fear. And so he's going to be louder in those districts and counties where he's looking for votes.
Right. All right. We'll see. Also, of course, all of these things, we don't know how much of an impact they'll have. Certainly, there's been a lot of early voting taking place as well. So Amanda Renteria, Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign political director, thank you so much for your time. And Maura Gillespie, founder of Bluestock Strategies and the former press advisor to John Boehner. Thank you so much for both of your time.
Thank you.